Good morning. I'll call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. This is our regular Supervisor Board meeting, Tuesday, May 23rd, 2023 at 10 a.m. We are meeting in the Board of Supervisors hearing room at 1415 Melody Lane, Building G, Bisbee, Arizona. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The order or deletion of any item on this agenda is subject to modification at the meeting. The board may vote to recess into an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from the board's attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to ARS 38-431.03 A and 3. I will begin with the roll call. District 1.
Crosby's here.
District 2.
Supervisor English is present.
And I'm here to represent District 3. We have a full board today. Members of the public may attend this meeting via Microsoft Teams computer or mobile app or via phone by calling 602-609-7513 or 888-680-6714, conference ID 224-237-156#. If you have trouble accessing the meeting remotely, call 520-432-9200 for direction. The board may permit public comment during the discussion of any item on the agenda. To speak on an agenda item or during the call to the public, complete and return the speaker request form to the clerk of the board prior to the start of the meeting. Note that some attachments may be updated after the agenda is published. This means that some presentation material displayed at the board meeting may differ slightly from the attached version. We will begin with call to the public. This is the time for the public to comment. Members of the board may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. We have several forms today. We will begin with Francis Alvarez. You will have 3 minutes, and for everyone that comes to the podium, please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me this time. I am Francis Alvarez. I was born, conceived, and raised in Miracle Valley, Arizona. As I spoke before, my parents were the first couple married by A.A. Allen, and the only couple that remained in Miracle Valley that was there from the very beginning up until January 2022 when my mother passed away. I am here to request that we do not demolition any of the buildings there at Miracle Valley. I've given before, previous times before, different reasons why I believe in not demolishing those. But this morning I come to stir up hope, because in a society where there is no hope, we need hope. Faith without hope is nothing. And I come this morning with faith. I come this morning with hope. I know that those that have no vision perish. And so I come to stir up vision this morning. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And I know it's been mentioned before that that's dead. People's had opportunity to get in there, do something with it. They haven't done that. But that's what I like about spring, and that's what is upon us is spring. Things can lie dormant. Seasons come and seasons go. And as I was just sitting back there off my notes, outside of my notes, it just come to me. I know we're not all spiritual, but I know in the Word of God, Abraham and his wife Sarah were barren for years up until they were in their 100. And suddenly out of nowhere, she becomes pregnant because God deems so. The same we find in the New Testament with Zachariah and Elizabeth. They were up in age, past the age of bearing children, so they were barren. And I want you to see that word barren, desolate, destitute, desert place, because that's what many refer Miracle Valley as. And out of nowhere, because God deemed it, she became pregnant with the forerunner of Jesus Christ, John the Baptist. And so spring is upon us, and it's a feeling of peace. It's a time where barren fields and skeletal remains of plants began to come to life, to flourish. Things began to grow, and I believe that time is upon us. It's a peaceful reminder that no matter how bad things may seem or how ugly it may look, life can spring forth. And this morning, as I was getting ready to come here, I began to go over my childhood there, and I was reminded of how beautiful and how green it was. And if we could just get a vision, there is nothing that is impossible. And we all know that. We have all had opportunities in our life where we have encountered God, whether we believe in him or not, in a face of a brand new baby, in a breath that we did not want to get up in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rebecca. Rebecca Allen Jones.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Supervisors. My name is Rebecca Allen Jones. I'm calling from England, where I'm packing to move stateside. I come before you with an update regarding the future of the Miracle Valley Bible College property. Thank you for pausing demolition activity for meaningful discussion. In your May 9th work session, you were asked to consider agreeing to nearly half the buildings being demolished. You are aware that Statute 11-268G requires a consultation with the State Historic Preservation Office, aka SHPO, prior to demolition of any individual dilapidated building. Dan Coxworth submitted a form on April 17th to have SHPO consult regarding the historical value of the Tabernacle Church building. On May 17th, SHPO determined that the Tabernacle Church building is eligible for listing in the Arizona and National Registers of Historic Places for qualifying under not one but two of the strict register criterion for its, quote, significance of religion as an important and influential institution within the historic context of American evangelicalism in the post-World War II and civil rights eras, as well as for its association with A.A. Allen as the property most notably associated with his influential ministry, unquote. I am hopeful that you are aware and ready to fully comply with your legal duties regarding this historic building as per Statute 41862, which states, each state agency shall establish a program to locate, inventory, and nominate to the Arizona Register of Historic Places all properties that are under the agency's ownership or control and that appear to meet the criteria for inclusion on the register. Each state agency shall exercise caution to assure that the property is not inadvertently transferred, sold, demolished, substantially altered, or allowed to deteriorate significantly. The State Historic Preservation Officer shall include the performance of state agencies. According to 41-862, you are not allowed to proceed with demolition. You now have a new and greater responsibility to this property. The Tabernacle building meets the criteria. You must now exercise caution to assure the property is stewarded to the fullest extent of the requirements of the law and is not inadvertently sold to any party which may not properly steward it. SHPO will be assessing your performance. Importantly, hear me out on this. Only the Tabernacle building has been consulted on. 11-268G requires SHPO to consult on each building prior to demolition. You're not legally ready for any work session or action. I implore you to call on Dan Coxworth to initiate your duty consult on SHPO with all the other buildings. Myself and my organization, Miracle Valley Oasis Center, will continue to be available to serve. It is your own conceived vision to celebrate Cochise County's legendary history. Don't allow it to be erased. Exercise caution, consult with SHPO on the remaining buildings, secure the future of this National Historic Tabernacle and its supporting buildings, and lean on those of us who are here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tiffany Miller.
Good morning. I am Tiffany Miller, residing at 4032 South Santa Lucia Avenue, Sierra Vista. I am very pleased that the State Historic Preservation Office has in fact found the Tabernacle of Miracle Valley to be eligible for State and National Registry of Historic Places. So as we take a moment to celebrate that news, I also do want to urge the county to do its best to protect all of the property and associated buildings from any harm as the proper assessments are made on the remainder of the property, not to allow any destruction or alteration to come to any part of this historic landmark. I do also want to urge the county to sincerely consider treatment of this property will be in the care of members of the Allen family in the property and know its significance and its history better than anyone else possibly could. We do, in fact, want to see this property once again become a productive site of progress and healing, where restoration, personal development, and innovation can once again take place. And I believe that as we work together, we will see Miracle Valley not only as a valuable piece of property, but in fact a powerful force for the future as well. So thank you for your consideration of this property.
Thank you. Trisha Giardetti's next in. She is on Teams.
Yes, good morning, supervisors. Tricia Jaredet, I live in Sierra Vista, and I want to relay two stories to you today about the recent election. My friend and neighbor, 5 houses down, died on April 13th, and the ballots were mailed late, the next week. I was quick in putting in a change of address for my friend to her sister's place at her sister's request. And I am happy to report to you that the system worked exactly as it's supposed to, as I understand it, which is to say that my neighbor received her publicity pamphlet in the mail, like I did. She did not receive a ballot, which I did receive, and that's because ballots are not to be forwarded. And so I believe that's how the system's supposed to work, and it did. I can attest to that. The second story regarding the election is a friend of mine who managed to move right in the middle of all of this. And he was very keen to participate in the election. So he did not get a ballot at either the old address he was leaving because he was forwarding, and he did not get it, I think, at his new address either. There was a lot of chaos in the move. But he called the recorder's office and confirmed the steps he needed to take to be able to vote on Election Day on May 16th. And he showed up at the county building, had his ID, had cleared that everything he needed to do to be able to vote was in correct order, and he was indeed able to cast his vote in person on Election Day. So, 2 good stories on how well the system has worked. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Jeff Sturgis. He is on Teams.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sturgis from Sierra Vista. As citizens of Cochise County come to terms with the jail sales tax election results, we all need to be reminded of the past antics of our legally and ethically tainted trio of Supervisor Tom Crosby, Supervisor Peggy Judd, and Recorder David Stevens. The latest antics being the hiring of Elections Director Bob Bartlesmeyer. We need to keep asking questions about this hire, which is about as bad as hiring an Elections Director can get. Bob Bartlesmeyer indicated on his application that he did not want those responsible for hiring him to contact his previous employers for the last 19 years. This didn't seem to bother the tainted trio. During those 19 years, Bob Bartlesmeyer had worked less than 2 years at 4 different jobs in 3 different states and just 8 months in one position. This didn't seem to bother the tainted trio. Bob Bartlesmeyer had an unexplained 12-year gap in employment history on his employment application. This didn't seem to bother the tainted trio. Bob Bartlesmeyer declared on his application that he had worked at a job for 10 months when it was only 8 months during his previous employer right before a primary election. He ditched that employer. This didn't seem to bother the tainted trio. Bob Bartlesmeyer has spread false claims about election fraud on social media, besmirching the integrity of thousands of election directors across the across the country, that is, who legally certified the integrity of the election. This didn't seem to bother the tainted trio. In fact, it was probably this fact that may be exactly what attracted the tainted trio to Bob. They themselves have disparaged election officials and attempted to disrupt the election process here in Cochise County. Yes, as citizens of Cochise County come to terms with the jail sales tax election results, we are all need to be reminded of the past antics of our legally and ethically tainted trio of supervisors Tom Crosby, Supervisor Judd, and Recorder David Stevens. Their other past antics, too numerous to list here again, are perfectly in line with their goal to disrupt the election process here in Cochise County as much as possible. Yes, the citizens of Cochise County need to be reminded of the tainted trio's past antics, but now we can all know that we have a fouled 4 that needs to go. Thank you.
The next speaker is Alfred Kern. He is here with us.
Well, here I am again. My name is Alfred Kern. I live at 3460 East Greenwash, Douglas, Arizona. And it's not changed. Cipriano, no home center. San Mateo, same thing. Madrone, same thing. But they're graded. It's part of this. The paper that I got from the roads over here said it's part of the supervisor's job is to come out and evaluate the roads. What roads could be added and what roads could be dropped. They haven't done it yet. And English, I think that's your area out there. And it needs to be done. You need to come out and drive down the road, or should I say bounce down the road, because it's in pitiful shape. The thing that happens most out there here recently is more and more people are moving out there, and that means more and more people are driving down that road. And I've said before, if the county doesn't maintain the road, keep the county vehicles out. I've kicked out a few of them already. They don't need to be there. They don't need to be bouncing on that road. The trucks don't need to be there. It doesn't need to be done. They need to come out and evaluate the roads. Cipriano, like I said, San Mateo, Madrone, all those 3 roads, just last week, they graded again. They don't need it. Nobody drives down those roads. But we have over 30 homes back there off of Coyote Principal and nothing has been done. So, like I said, I've been coming here for over a year now. And before that, I had confronted Ann English, you know, since she's been in office. So it's, come on, it needs to be done. If you don't want to drive a county vehicle, fine. Let me know. I'll come and get you. I'll drive you out there. You know? So anyway, thank you.
Our next speaker is Allison Morse. She is, I do not know, she may be on Teams.
Yes, I'm on Teams. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. I'm Allison Morris from Portal, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak today. I would just like to comment on the results of this last election for the jail district tax. It's my understanding that all 76,219 registered voters in Cochise County were sent a mail-in ballot, and only 25,048 were returned as a cast ballot. That is a disappointing 33% voter turnout. Recorder Stevens mentioned a cost, I believe, of $120,000 for ballots at his budget presentation last month. I'm not sure if that included postage or not. I wasn't clear on that. Or if it was just for the paper ballots, but at least $80,000 was spent on voters who didn't bother to return their ballots. And I think that's really sad. I also think there was some confusion about the jail tax issue with questions that were not answered in the voter booklets or at the various presentations across the county. In addition, a lot of unfounded fear and skepticism had been spread about our voting system, continues to spread, and I believe that both of these factors have a direct correlation to low voter turnout. It also didn't help that Supervisors Crosby and Judd held a work session February 23rd of this year, promoting debunked and disproven opinions about our election system. It was ironic that one of the presenters actually sued the supervisors and Recorder Stevens 2 months later, claiming all kinds of problems with the mail-in ballots and our voting system. Not surprisingly, that lawsuit was one of 5 election-related lawsuits filed against the Cochise County Board of Supervisors and Recorder Stevens in as many months. I would just like to ask that we all work to learn the truth, backed up with facts, and stop spreading information that is based on fear, distrust, and/or a lack of knowledge. Clear, complete, and truthful information is critical. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Kim Moen.
Good morning. I'm Kim Moen from Hereford, Arizona. Greetings to the Board of Supervisors and caring people who rally. I am here to speak into the buildings of Miracle Valley. You may think that deserts are empty and bare, but you'll be surprised by what you find there. There are many very old buildings that are falling apart that have a special place in my spirit and heart. The inspiration of these buildings is hard to measure because what is one man's trash is another man's treasure. This land was given for God's glory, and we know there's a lot more to this story. On May 9th, the 3 p.m. work session meeting, Dan Coxworth spoke about the many buildings that should be demolished and would remain regarding Miracle Valley. The Board of Supervisors agreed that they would wait to hear the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, and then make a decision about the future of the 37.5 acres. Unfortunately, Dan Coxworth only submitted one form regarding one building for SHPO to consult on. The building was the Tabernacle. The Board of Supervisors has a legal duty and is liable to fulfill Law 11-268 and that they need to consult with SHPO on the historic value on all the other buildings. A week ago, the SHPO consultation did find historic value of the Tabernacle building. The Tabernacle is now eligible for listing on both the state and national levels as a historic place. This now takes in consideration another law, 41862, where the state of Arizona must exercise caution in building preservation and protection. I would like to respectfully request that the historic value of all the buildings in Miracle Valley property be considered and that the proper time is allowed for their preservation. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sandy Troll.
Hi, Sandy Troll from Sierra Vista. I'm asking that you do not certify the jail tax election. There's a few reasons. There was failure to establish chain of custody and voter identity on every ballot, so that makes it uncertifiable. The only pen authorized is the BIC grip roller pen for the ESS tabulators, so this makes the use of the tabulators uncertifiable. Election results are just expected to be accepted without any way of examining or double checking the results. And I have a quote from Mark Twain: "Do the right thing. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest." Thank you.
The next speaker is Dr. Melvin Hart Sr.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. I would like to say that a few years ago, a reporter came to me and wanted to do an interview, and I said, I will upon one condition. That is that you separate the old gunfight here in the 80s away and separate from the Miracle Valley Bible College. He promised me he would. But when the paper came out, it had one of the biggest items it had was it was associated together. I received a copy of that. The gentleman sent me a copy of the newspaper with an insert in it. And he wrote on it, he said, "I'm very sorry, but the editors said they could sell more papers if they put the Bible College into it." So it's just a money racket and such as that. Now, so I want to go on record saying that the Bible College had no connection whatsoever with the gunfight in the 80s. Then I want to also say that the last meeting, I was just Mrs. I can't call her sister, but in the church we do that, but the supervisor English mentioned my name to speak. I had wanted to call on the telephone, and I had a problem there. I called 20 times. When she mentioned my name, I said, "Yes, I'm here," but she couldn't hear me. And I'd go on, and it was click off, on and off, constantly. It gave me the impression like someone just didn't want me to speak. So finally, I did get through when she called another person's name up. And I remember our Supervisor English saying, "Well, I called him and he didn't answer," but I was answering. And so I want to say, I don't know who to look to about that and check into that, but I think that's important that people have a right to speak. And I wanted to speak, and eventually I did. Now, the next thing I wanted to mention to you is something about the Miracle Valley Bible College. Do you know it's a very historical place? That the brick on that property was made on that property. They didn't buy any brick. They didn't go outside and bring brick in. Mr. Reverend Allen was a very person who's very tight on this money and finances, and he found he could make brick cheaper than he could buy it. It's a very historical place, and I think I know we have several speakers here speaking on behalf of Miracle Valley, and I just want to say that it needs to be preserved. It does. Also, let me mention there are several people who are interested in obtaining that property, and I and my organization are likewise interested in doing so. We were served there for 10 years, did more than anyone that ever did on that property. And then another thing I want to mention, we hear about this place was taken by taxes. Well, there was no taxes on it when I was there. It became taxable when a nonprofit group took the property. That's where the taxes come from. And then when you add interest and penalty onto those taxes, you're going to find that's what drove that price up so high.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kim Depew.
Good morning. My name is Kim Depew. I live in Sierra Vista. I was sad to vote by a mail-only ballot, but I got the job done and we had an election. However, I don't approve. Regarding that, Arizona Senate Continuing Resolution 1037 recently reminded state and county election officials that tabulating and counting machines are not secure. I hope you'll give needed attention to Senator Borelli's letter that you received yesterday regarding this resolution and election machine security. The U.S. Constitution is a lot more important than state laws, gives our legislators primary power over elections. Senator Borelli reminds you of this in the letter when you get a chance to read it. Congratulations, Ms. Judd, on being the new chairman. And thank you, all three of you supervisors, for your hard work. I appreciate you, even though previous speakers don't. Thank you.
That's the last of the call to the public that I know of. Double check. Okay, so now we'll. So you signed up to speak on an agenda item? But we added you and we will bring you up.
I cannot wait 3 hours to speak, 2 hours to speak. I was unaware of that particular ruling.
With the attorney counsel, can we change that?
It's always been the procedure that calls to the public or for non-agenda items, and that speakers need to speak to the agenda item when the agenda item is called. Now, that being said, if the board chooses to rearrange the agenda item and wants to hear something earlier in the agenda, you do have the chairman does have the power to do that, but you cannot let someone speak on an agenda item at call to the public.
Would the board agree to move agenda item 13 up to the first action item?
Madam, I move that we move item 13 up to the first action item, or prior to the consent agenda. Is that what you want to do?
There doesn't have to be a motion. You could move.
We can just do it?
If you wish to.
Should we keep it in the action items section, or can we move it up prior to consent agenda?
You can close the call to the public. You can rearrange it to move that one agenda item up as an action item and then resume your agenda.
Okay. All right. So I'm closing the call to the public and moving item number 13 to be at the current time. So we will have item number 13 now, and then we'll go ahead with the agenda as written. So item 13, I need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the transfer of $40,000 from the general fund contingency to the elections department personnel budget for the personnel costs for the remainder of the fiscal year.
Second the motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and our speaker today on that will be Rich Karwachka, County Administrator.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor English, Supervisor Crosby. I don't believe Recorder Stevens is online. I'm just checking. So he made a request to move or transfer $40,000 from the general fund contingency to the elections department. Recently in this fiscal year, we had 2 departures from the election department, and when 2 departures leave, there are PTO payouts that were made. Currently, the personnel line is running in the red, so this additional money will keep them back whole and be able to pay their personnel to the end of this fiscal year. So that is the reasoning Recorder Stevens informed me about, and then we put together this request for the board to consider.
Thank you. Are there any questions by the board for Mr. Karwachka?
I have this email message which you and Madam English and Mr. Karwachka have received already from Mr. Stevens, and I would be very happy to read it for clarification of the points that Mr. Karwachka just made, if you would so desire. It says, with the departure of the 2 employees from the elections department, the PTO payout has caused a large deficit in the budget. This $40,000 is an estimate to cover the salaries through the end of the fiscal year. There was only $4,000 plus left in the budget for salaries when I took over the election director's job.
Thank you. We will now open for our speakers. We first have Jeff Sturgis, who would like to speak on item 13. And he's on Teams.
Hi, I'm Jeff Sturgis from Sierra Vista. I have a hard time being able to speak in favor or not because so little information, or perhaps some information, is provided. And that is what I feel needs to be said about many items listed on the Board of Supervisors agendas. But let's look at this particular example. We can read that, quote, the election department has experienced unexpected increase in employee payouts due to the departure of several key personnel this year. To my knowledge, 2 personnel have departed, and that's been repeated now by supervisors. One was driven to resign because she refused to break election laws and was subsequently harassed, and one retiring after many years of service. But 2 does not equal several. We are told that, unfortunately, the election department has, quote, exceeded our allocated budget for wages. Was this excess due to the forced resignation of Lisa Mera or something else? Who was the recipient of these wages? We get the attached budget amendment described as a contingency, and then a list comprising of salary, taxes for Social Security, Medicare, state retirement, and workers' compensation insurance. The numbers listed in the column to be total are all different and are all in actual dollars and cents, not one number listed ending in a 0, and yet they all add up to a tidy $40,000 and 0 cents. Were these the actual numbers that by coincidence neatly add up to $40,000, or is something else in play here? At the bottom of the attached budget amendment, we get the explanation that this payment is for salary adjustment disbursement. What we don't get is a real explanation of why $40,000 of taxpayer money is being requested to be dispersed. Yes, as the Board of Supervisor website states, the board may permit public comment during the discussion of any item on this agenda, and the speaker request form allows members of the public to speak or to have their names and position read into the record. But how can members of the public know how to respond to agenda items when so little information is provided? How can members of the public know how to respond to agenda items when so many questions are left unanswered? Certain members of the Board of Supervisors and the election department need to be more thorough and transparent in many ways. But this is a good example of badly deficient diligence and transparency, whether intentional or not. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Fred Miller. Please come forward.
Good morning. Thank you very much for moving the agenda. I appreciate it. In the future, I will not sign up for the wrong thing. As best I can determine, the Elections Department budget for fiscal year 23, the current fiscal year, was $268,980, which would include all employees and the director. The former director's salary was $112,000. She resigned effective mid-February. That would leave approximately 4 months of her salary unpaid. At about $9,300 a month, that should leave about $37,000 in salary now available in the budget. I'm not sure where PTO is actually paid from. Not all of it comes out of her salary. I believe some of it would come out of another fund. There have been one other staff departure. And that departure should have been budgeted for. That she was retiring. It was well known that she was going to retire this year, and that should have been budgeted for. If it wasn't budgeted for her retirement, that means that that salary would have been included in the fiscal 23 budget. So there may be more unallocated monies in the election department budget. Recorder Stephen, who's the titular head of the elections department, has apparently asked the finance department, Mr. Frisbee, for this additional $40,000 for elections personnel. However, a new elections director has been hired at Mr. Stevens' behest by the supervisors for $95,000, which is $4,500 above the posted amount on the employment application. There was no explanation for why this was done. He was also approved for a $12,000 relocation allowance. And I have tried unsuccessfully to find out if any other county employee that accepted a new job got a relocation allowance. They may have, I just couldn't find out why. Nobody seemed to know why or if they did. The new elections director, by the way, lied on his application. That recorded Steve first, but I presume it's because some kind of little salary thing happens when you get hired at the end of a month before the beginning of the month. That would mean about $8,000 in the last month of the elections department budget for FY 23 would be used. A question I hope the supervisor would ask is, what's the reason for the $40,000 being requested for personnel when there is a surplus of at least $37,000 in the elections budget for personnel? Thank you. Thank you.
That is all the speakers that have signed up for item number 13. Are there any further comments or questions?
I have a comment or a question, really. People have said to me that they have asked Stevens to reply to them about this, and he did not or would not to the public. And I think that having been told by the county administrator that the line is in the red, it's our responsibility to make sure that money is available. The amount, I don't know that it was pulled out of the air. There should have been substantiation for the $40,000. So I think at this point in time, people are looking for a reason to be unhappy with the elections department and the new hire. And so they are looking to say, you need another $40,000. Where have you spent all this money? And I think that we've given them some answers today, but the real answers have to come from Recorder Stevens. You know, we only have so much oversight over any elected official, and we've given you the information that we have. And if you want more as a private citizen, then you should contact Recorder Stevens.
Thank you, Supervisor English. I agree. If there's nothing else, we're going to move ahead with the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Now it's open for the consent agenda items 1 through 6.
Madam Chair, I would like to break out item number 1, the minutes, just very briefly.
Okay, so we're going to vote on consent agenda items 2 through 6.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move that we approve consent agenda items 2 through 6.
I'll second the motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Agenda item 1 will be a regular item comments.
That's fine. I saw Ms. McLaughlin here, and I just wanted her to confirm for us that regardless of any mistake that might have been made in the paper about how you were quoted or how the meeting went last time, that the county meeting minutes are accurate. Could you tell us about that?
Do you have a motion?
I don't have a motion on the floor. Well, she's coming up. Can we have a motion for item number 1?
Certainly. Madam Chair, I move that we approve item number 1 of the consent agenda, which is approve the minutes of the regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors of May 9th, 2023.
I'll second the motion.
You know, you could explain that.
Sure.
Ms. Rupp.
And just to state, I haven't thoroughly reviewed the actual minutes that are attached to your document. I do know what was stated and what was recorded on the Teams meeting. And regarding my item, actually the appeal, what was stated in the paper is a little bit different than what was included in the minutes. And what was included in the paper was actually representative of the applicant claims rather than my own statements.
In that case, I would like to assure everybody that Mr. Maddox will take extra care to make sure that the meeting minutes as they're published match the video in this case. Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin.
Thank you.
If I may, Madam Chair.
Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with the minutes that are posted.
Okay.
Okay.
Hearing that.
Sounds good.
I just want to be clear about that.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. Any further comments?
That's just kind of unusual to bring it up to show that there's nothing wrong with it. I mean,
I don't know if you saw a message from Ms. McLaughlin about a what looked like misinformation in the paper, but I wanted to make sure that the public knew that we were going to record it correctly regardless of what the paper might have said.
Hey, now we'll have a vote on that. All in favor? The chair votes aye and the motion carries. The next item up is our public hearings. Do we have the motion first? Or do I open public hearings?
Chair, I move that we adopt zoning ordinance 2309 to rezone parcel 123-37-007 from R36 residential one dwelling for 36,000 square feet to RU4 rural one dwelling for 4 acres pursuant to the application of Mr. Seth Wilson.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kirschman, for coming today.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a rezoning request. The applicant is Mr. Seth Wilson. Currently, the property is zoned R36, which is one dwelling per 36,000 square feet. Proposed zoning is RU4, which is one dwelling per 4 acres. Excuse me. It is in growth category D. It's designated rural residential. There are no area plans. The existing use is a recreational vehicle, some outbuildings, some agricultural uses, and ultimately a permitted single-family residence is requested. Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval to the board at their meeting on May 10th, 2023. So this is located kind of south and east of the city limits of Benson along the San Pedro River. Large portion of the property that we'll see when we get to the site plan has the river as well as a very large erosion hazard setback. So the density of one dwelling per 3,600 square feet really does not make sense. Plus, it does not follow the character of the area with the rural activities. It's located at 1050 Southdale Road, Benson. Parcel is identified as 123-37-007, and it's 5 acres. So this is the applicant's site plan. Again, we've got the San Pedro there located on the west side of the property and about a 300-foot erosion hazard setback from that point, pushing the residents up near the private dirt road. Some photographs of the surrounding area. Again, rural activities, cattle, some field crops, etc. Staff notified surrounding neighbors. We received no comments either in support or opposition to the request. We did review against our regulations, and we find that the request complies with 11 of the applicable rezoning factors, and the request would be in keeping with the rural character of the area. We have no factors against approval, and that concludes my presentation.
I would just like to say I like the sign that has the little, whatever those things are called, where you can put your phone on the QR code, and you can go right to the county. I think that's really neat, and I don't know if people noticed that up there, but also this is the perfect kind of property that needs to be rezoned, and I think that they're lucky to have it, and we're lucky to have you, Mr. Kirschman, who can help them through this process. And
excuse me, Madam Chair. If I
now
may.
we will. Before we comment, we open the public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing now. And I don't see anyone here to speak on that item or hear anyone online. So now I'm just going to finish my comment. Just thank you again. And that's all I have. Does anyone on the board have anything they'd like to say?
I think it's always a good idea for upzoning. Anytime we can accomplish that, I'm always going to be in favor. So thank you.
No comments at this time.
Okay, we will close the public hearing on that item and call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries.
Thank you.
I have another item in this section.
Madam Chair, I move we adopt zoning ordinance 23-10 to rezone parcel 20337-023A from R36 residential 1 dwelling per 36,000 square feet to RU2 rural 1 dwelling per 2 acres pursuant to the application of Mr. Anthony Peters and Ms. Larissa Peters.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. And Ms. Christine McLaughlin will give us our description.
Sure. Good morning. This is a rezoning request, docket RZ 2307, which is applicant initiated request to rezone a property from R36 to RU2. The applicants are Anthony and Larissa Peters. The property is located at 731 North Taylor Road, just a little west of the municipal limits of Wilcox on parcel 202-37023A. The parcel is 29 acres in size. It has R36 zoning, which is residential zoning, 1 dwelling per 36,000 square feet. The request is to rezone to RU2, which is rural zoning, 1 dwelling per 2 acres. It is currently developed with a couple houses and some other accessory structures. The applicant recently purchased the property and would like to add a lavender farm in the near future. Eventually, they would like to add guest lodging. If this request is approved, guest lodging would be subject to a future special use request before the Planning and Zoning Commission. Here's a closer look at the parcel. The parcel subject to the request is the large one in the center of the graphic. It's surrounded by R36 zoning, that's the bluish color, with the exception of a 2.5 acre parcel a little to the north shown in red, which is zoned general business. This is what it looks like from the air by drone. The area is primarily low density residential, and this is a request to downzone. The applicant does intend to keep the uses residential in nature. There are 15 factors we use to evaluate all rezoning requests. The request complies with all applicable factors. In this case, there were 10 applicable factors. The request is in keeping with the existing nature and development pattern of the area. We received 2 letters in support from adjacent landowners, and the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended forwarding this request to the board. In conclusion, again, this was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission on May 10th. The Commission recommended approval. Staff recommends approval to adopt zoning ordinance 2310 to approve docket RZ 2307 and rezone parcel 20337-023A from R36 to RU2.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. I will now open the public hearing on this item. There is anyone who would like to speak on it, including on Teams? I don't hear any, so I will close the public hearing. This is especially good, and I want to thank you too for helping people. It's good to see not only the downzoning, but the commercial or the farming kind of commercial business it could bring to the area. So thank you very much. Any other items? Any other discussion or questions?
I'm in favor of agriculture.
Okay. Supervisor English, do you have anything? Okay, so I'm going to close. I did close the public hearing. Okay, I'm ready to call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. So now the action items, number 9, approve fiscal year 2023 funding agreement with the Superior between Cochise County and Arizona Supreme Court. If I could have a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve fiscal year 2023 funding agreement between the Cochise County Superior Court and the Arizona Supreme Court. Administrative Office of the Courts, AOC, for supplemental probation funding provided by the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, to improve, maintain, or enhance the Cochise County Probation Department in the amount of $172,400 January the 5th, 2023 through December 31st, 2026.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have Teresa Rockridge from the Administrative Finance of the Courts. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. This is actually two funding agreements in here. One is for adult probation in the amount of $121,370, and another one for juvenile probation in the amount of $51,030 for a total of $172,400. Both agreements are identical.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Rockridge?
I have one question. This is supplemental probation funding. Is this to supplement us for the additional salaries for last year? They're always a year behind, it seems like.
Yeah, when we, most of the counties last year did the increase like we asked for and we received. So the AOC came in and said for the probation departments that anything above 2.5, they would help supplement after, because of course we only received increases for our general fund. And so the money that we did receive at this time was calculated based on that 2.5% at the above what the counties gave. This money we're going to be able to use until December 31st, 2016. And it is to offset the increased local costs, but it is also per the agreement to improve, maintain, and enhance the Cochise County probation departments.
Okay, so the ARPA funds will be available until 2026?
Yes, and because it was sent to us from the state, anything we don't use by December 31st, 2026 will be reverted back to them.
Okay. All right. Is there any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Action item. Thank you.
Yes. Aye.
Action item number 10. Approve Operation Stone Garden contracts, and there's a lot of numbers for, and the Sheriff's Department is here to describe that. If we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve Operation Stone Garden Grant OPSG contracts 22 AZDOHS OPSG-220420-01 in the amount of $550,000 for overtime and mileage, and 22 AZDOH OPSG 220420-02 in the amount of $11,248 for equipment, both effective April 3rd, 2023 through March 31st, 2024, with the understanding that the grant administration will be transferred to the County Finance Department for fiscal year 2024.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, our speaker is Ken Foster. Lieutenant Foster, would you please tell us about this?
Good morning, Madam Chair and distinguished board members. I'm here to request the approval of Operation Stone Garden contracts that Supervisor Crosby described earlier. The Sheriff's Office has participated in Operation Stone Garden grant program for many years. The overtime and mileage funding are utilized in coordination with our federal law enforcement partners to identify and deter trafficking of humans and illegal drugs in the United States, specifically our county. This year, the Cochise County Sheriff's Office was awarded $550,000 in overtime. The overtime funding under this grant award covers employee-related expenses. The grant award broken down this year is $305,324.87 for overtime reimbursement and $194,675.13 for EREs. The grant award reimburses the county $50,000 for costs associated with county vehicles being used to support the public safety mission of this grant. The total award of overtime and mileage is $550,000. The grant award includes $11,248 for the purchase of equipment, specifically the purchase of license plate reader service for our current inventory of readers. I know in the past that the supervisors have made indications of concern that participating in Operation Stone Garden caused an escalation to the unfunded public safety pension liability. We understand that concern too. I think it's important for you to realize that 42% of our sworn personnel are in Tier 3, meaning they don't have a traditional pension benefit plan. They don't count against the unfunded liability. So that's up from 28% last year to 42% this year. Real quick, it's a federal grant providing local law enforcement agencies the ability to combat human and drug trafficking and associated crimes. It's recurring every year, different amounts that we get funded. The benefits to the sheriff's office and to our communities is it increases proactive enforcement patrol without negatively affecting our scheduling. It increases proactive enforcement patrol with minimal impact to the general fund. Provides higher quality of service to the citizens of Cochise County by enabling CCSO to specifically deal with ongoing crimes and issues associated with the border. Our deployments, we deploy deputies 7 days a week in conjunction with this operation. The Stone Garden operation deployments allow the Sheriff's Office to put more deputies on the road in high traffic areas and remote areas we normally are not able to regularly patrol due to low staffing levels. I know Supervisor English, you were concerned with the amount of hours they were working. I know we typically only allow them to work 8 hours of overtime a week. Last year was a different situation with the incidences that we were having with people driving away from us in high speeds and endangering the public. We are hoping to get back to those 8 hours a week this year. And just a little statistical data I know that you folks like to hear. From January 1st to the end of April of this year, we've had 843 apprehensions. There's been 58 failure to yields, meaning when these folks we try to stop these folks, they run from us, which causes some major concerns, safety concerns to the public. And we've filed 135 smuggling cases with the county attorney's office this year. That is my presentation. If you have any questions of me.
Your title is Lieutenant, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mr. Lieutenant Foster, thank you for being here. My platform is prevent illegal entry, for the record. And I have talked briefly to Mr. Frisbee about the Tier 1 PSPRS liability, which I've been actually watching very closely since 2012. And I've asked for an update from Mr. Frisbee, and I'm sure that we'll take a closer look at that as our budget process proceeds this spring. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you. I know that there has been a lot of activity and there has also been a major change with Title 42 going away. And I'm just hoping for the best that you don't have to use quite this many resources next year. So I just want to say that I hope for the best. I think
we hope with you. We hope with you.
Yeah, but it is good to see you out when you need to be.
Is it this money for overtime is only for deputies?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have a cumulative on the deputies so that you know who is?
One more time, I didn't quite hear you, ma'am.
The cumulative number of hours that any one deputy is using this. Are you in charge of that, Ken?
Myself and our finance department, yes. So we do keep a close eye on how many hours they work a week. Yes, ma'am.
Well, not only a week, but totally,
Well, we do keep an eye, but we're hoping by capping the amount of hours they work a week that keeps them low as far as the whole year goes. Well, but we do shut it down and we start. It is a lot of hours.
6 days a week they're working.
It is a lot of hours, but they have the ability to also work before or after their current shift, so they can still get some time off. They get their regular time off. So some of the deputies do that.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mr. Foster. If there's no other comments, we will vote on this. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item number 11, approve.
Maybe this is dead. Okay, I'll use this one. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get this other microphone too, so I'll have 3.
Okay. So the next item number 11.
Madam Chair, just to clarify the record, could I just please ask you to ask the vote once again?
Okay, for item number 10, if we could redo that vote, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye and the motion carries. Item number 11 is next on our agenda. If we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve grant agreement DBFFY 234-117-3301 between the Arizona Department of Administration and Cochise County, effective July the 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2026, in the amount of $1,500,000 for implementation, maintenance, and support of a school safety program that includes a secure multimedia data communication system for public safety and public schools.
Second.
Okay, we have the sheriff with us, Mark Daniels, and Jackie Clay, superintendent of schools, that will be presenting. Thank you.
Madam Chair, board members, county staff, and citizens, welcome again. Good morning to you all. Once again, we're here today to talk about another innovative program that protects our educators and also, most important, our kiddos in our schools. Over the last 11 years, during my tenure as sheriff and working with Ms. Clay, our county superintendents, we've done many things to protect our kids in schools. We take that very serious. We have many rural schools, but we also work directly within our city schools too. For example, just a refresher for the board and the citizens out here today, the radios, every school is equipped with a radio. CTE, which is our career technical education. You probably just saw something recently where we graduated some of our homegrowns in the criminal justice program with high hopes they'll stay here. Our ALICE training program, which is a program that actually trains students, faculty, and civic organizations. I believe last was over 15, maybe 17,000 students and faculty members that we have trained in preparation for an active scenario in their school. Our SRO programs, which we continue, which are also grant funded, but most important, our partnerships that we take such great pride in with our schools and the superintendents, principals, and obviously my good friend here, Jackie Clay, to my right. As proposed, as the reading states, this is another program that was provided $1.5 million to the sheriff's office. I'm no expert of education, so I reached out to Ms. Clay here and said, Ms. Clay, will you work with the other superintendents to what's best for your schools? I'm not going to dictate to a school what's best for them. And they've come back with a program that we've submitted. We have the contract here, obviously asking for your approval. Again, it goes back to the importance of protecting our kids. So this time I'm going to turn over to the Honorable Jackie Clay. Jackie?
Thank you, Sheriff Daniels, Madam Chair, members of the board, and county. The state school safety pilot program selected Cochise County as the recipient of funds to strengthen the interoperability between law enforcement, public safety agencies, and county school districts. The funding supports multimedia data, communications, identification and incident location, interactive floor plans and mapping, panic alarm systems, activating direct collaboration between schools and public safety agencies, as well as allowing for real-time control over communication assets during an incident. School safety requires a multi-layered solution. When it is examined at the school district level, stakeholders are not only looking for interoperability and a partnership with law enforcement, but a solid action plan which includes prevention, preparedness, and recovery. Education and training are vital parts of empowering educational leaders to mitigate school safety issues before incidents escalate. Proper training in collaboration with law enforcement can greatly increase the likelihood of an active shooter emergency achieving the best possible outcome. Law enforcement response is further enhanced by school preparedness, which requires having a system in place to account for students, communicate with staff, and have real-time information so school leadership can make split-second decisions. Finally, recovery after a school safety breach is key for reunification, addressing mental health concerns, and evaluating the response at a school level for future incidents. The sheriff's office and law enforcement will maximize interoperability and response capabilities, while at the same time, school safety needs will be met on a school district level. I'd like you to know that 100% of our schools, our unified school districts and our charter schools have signed up already for this school safety consortium. Subject to your questions.
Question. How is this going to be broken out? Is it mostly for equipment, or is this for manpower, or what's the $1.5 million going to be spent on?
It will be spent on a vendor who will supply all the interoperability requirements needed. Interoperability meaning the panic buttons, the maps that go into the school, the interactive maps, any type of communication. We're also looking at software that goes on the phones for the schools. So basically not manpower, ma'am. Basically it is the equipment and the software and the communications between the schools and public safety.
To answer that question, Ms. English, how this affects law enforcement, this is a virtual system that's already complements the ALICE training, which all schools in Cochise County, to include Fort Huachuca, have been trained on. As we as law enforcement first responders, all the agencies in the county, when we respond on our MDCs, mobile data computers, will show us a layout of the school, where the target is, to include names of if it's an active student in the school. It gives us the incident command before we even get to the scene, which actually provides us insight. It helps us organize our incident command and our approach as we go into a school.
How does that work with the SRO who is on staff at the schools? Is there going to be like a direct connection with the SRO and more immediate response, or is he going to call out for help? Or
on the law enforcement side, 100%, because they're already on school. They already been trained as in active shooter scenarios, active scenarios. They've already been trained. This is just a supplement to actually add the intel behind it, Jackie.
Yes, there is 100% communications between the schools and the SROs because, of course, they're working together already. So everyone will be trained on all the software and especially the interoperability and the communications.
Because he'll be right there, but that'll come up on his phone or tablet or whatever he's working with, even if he may be at the football field or
there will
on
be
campus.
There will be a panic button in every school. Once that panic button is hit,
he'll be right there.
It's not just him
or she.
The sheriff department, police department, all public. There's going to be an interoperability of communications across law enforcement if a panic button is hit in any of our schools. And once that's hit, law enforcement will have access to that school, the cameras, and also the mapping of the school. So when they go in, they'll know what doors open in, what doors open out, what staircases to come down. They will know all that information as they are going to the school, instead of trying to find it out when they get there to the site.
It just leaves this, and it's been one of my, speaking of platforms, it just leaves this bunch of vulnerable schools who don't have close communication or close access with the law enforcement. If they have anything, it might be the fire department, and then next DPS would be next closest. And I don't know that we have a partnership with DPS, and I love Sheriff Daniels. I'm not trying to say that's a bad thing, but is there such a distance? So is there some way to help those schools? Because this equipment might not work as well in Apache as it does in
It's already working, ma'am. We even have cameras in Apache, and I would thank Sheriff Daniels' SAT team for getting cameras in there. So I'm going to tell you, even though we're doing this as a county, every school they have their own plan, either working with the sheriff's office, the SAT or Border Patrol. So all those things are in place. This enhances everything that we do.
Well, I totally agree with the program. I totally agree with the idea of getting all that everywhere and working in there, but there's just a delay with getting assistance to some areas in it.
Actually, if you look back here, go back 10 years, a decade, when we first started implementing school safety in our interoperability aspect of it, DPS, and you guys just approved, again, $2.8 million, there's $6 million. That interoperability actually brings the state into what we're doing, the troopers.
Good.
So kind of alleviate that, what you're saying, Ms. Judd, on that.
Perfect.
So we've hit every angle, and what we didn't hit on you today, both Ms. Clay and myself, working on the mental health aspect of students in need. She's got a program, I got a program, and I think you're going to see some real positive returns on that as we push forward. So for a rural county that here 11 years ago, pre-Jackie and I, we have brought some real solutions to it. Is it a stop all? Of course not, but this starts at the home too. So again, we're going to try to do everything we can to protect these kids, interoperability, and once they get, troopers do get there, especially Border Patrol, that's not within our system, they will be briefed, and they usually line up with a law enforcement officer at a local level. So we're trying.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'd also like to add that this ARS was written, it was assisted by Senator Gowan. His big thing is school safety, and his big thing is working with our public safety, our sheriff, and our police officers. So if you look at the ARS, why it was written, and then we were honored to be selected out of all the counties in the state. Only few counties in the state were selected for this particular grant. It is a pilot program. So all of us who have been selected, we have been talking, we've been going to conferences, and we've been collaborating on the best way to move forward so that this eventually will get out to the whole state.
If I could add one more comment that I think is important, especially for our citizens out there, is the fact that as tradition with the sheriff's office, and I know Ms. Clay's in the same boat I am, is this has been going on for about 4 years, if not longer, when it comes to school safety. But also what I'm asking you to approve, what Ms. Clay's asking you to approve today is ask for no in-kind from any of you all or our general fund. This is supplemental to what we're trying to do here.
Thank
I have a comment and a question. Sheriff Daniels, would you care to comment on the connection to volunteers on the SAT team? I'm familiar or I'm acquainted with a couple SAT team members, but many people may not know what that stands for and their assistance with school security.
Well, let me say this. Our sheriff's team, which is 40 members strong, that's our allocation there. They go out to our rural schools. They become a school partner with the Apache school, which has limited resources. They were directed with Ms. Clay and her expectations. Again, I will never step in another lane on that. I work alongside Ms. Clay and the superintendents, but our SAT team goes to every school every quarter to check on their radios, make sure their comms are working, but also build those relationships and have lunch with the kids. My deputies do that too. That's just another outreach that the kids know when we do arrive, we're there for them. I think it's very important.
One of the comments I'd like to note that Senator Gowan is a school board member, and I wonder if there is any Palomino school board members present with us this morning. I think I see Sheena Herrera back there, who is an elected Palomino school board member. So welcome and thank you for being here. That concludes my comments.
All right. If there are no further comments, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You're quite a team up there.
I just also want everyone to know that our schools are soft targets. We've had some schools where we've had people come in and actually try to open up the doors of our schools. Okay, and these are our schools that are way out there in, I call them in the hinterlands. They're way out there. We also have problems with them coming on the property at night. We have problems with them coming on the property in the daytime. And the thing is, they're soft targets. and our teachers and our principals are doing the best that they can to protect, and also working with Sheriff Daniels. It is a very, very challenging job, but I think we're doing better than some. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very lucky to have the two of you and to have the schools that we do have. That soft targets they may be, but they are very good schools. And I have personal knowledge of many of them, and I'm sure the other districts feel the same way. District supervisors feel the same way of their schools. Okay, if we have all finished commenting, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, and the motion carries. Okay, our next item is number 12, approved contract between Cochise County Superior Court and Prevontronics. And our Robert Coronado, the court security chief, is our presenter. Oh, we need a motion though. Could you wait just a moment, Robert?
Madam Chair, I move we approve contract 23-19-CRT-01 between Cochise County Superior Court and Prevontronics for ballistic protection, court locations in Bisbee and Sierra Vista, Arizona.
I'll second the motion.
Hey, Mr. Coronado.
Yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, I appreciate you having me this morning. For your approval this morning is ballistic protection. It's going to be located at Bisbee and Sierra Vista locations. It's going to be between the Cochise County Superior Courts and Prevontronics. In our attempts to stay current with modern safety and protection practices, ballistic protection will enhance our ability to protect in the event of a critical incident, which are becoming more frequent in today's society. The ballistic protection in the courts will be located in Bisbee and Sierra Vista, and will enhance the safety of our judges, staff, and members of the public. And I'll be happy to entertain any questions.
It sounds to me like that's something that, once again, a grant that is useful, contracts that are useful to our courts and our protection. And I don't know what else to say. Any other comments? Thank you. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye and motion carries.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our next item, number 13, was already done. So we're moving on to item number 14. It's a IGA with Cochise County and the city of Douglas. And we're going to have Mr. Henry Mraz, if we could have a motion while he makes his way.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve an intergovernmental agreement between Cochise County and the city of Douglas for state-required testing and monitoring of the BDI International Airport water and water supply system in the amount of $1,850 per month, effective June 1st, 2023 through June 1st, 2025.
Second.
Through January 1st, if we could make that quick correction. Okay, and is that right? Is that correct? January 1st, 2025?
That is correct.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Mraz, let us know what's going on.
Madam Chair, members of the board, earlier this year, I noticed that the existing IGA that we had with the city of Douglas had run out. And so we started.
Mr. Mraz, can you speak into the microphone?
Okay. I noticed that earlier this year, I noticed that the IGA that was in place had expired. And so we embarked upon trying to get a new IGA set up. This is important. The city of Douglas has a certified water operator that goes to the Bisbee Douglas International Airport every day. They check various things, the amount of electricity used out there at the wells, the chlorine levels, the system and the water, and so they monitor the system, and they draw samples on a weekly basis that are sent to ADEQ for testing. So.
Okay. Any questions?
None at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mraz. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. The next item, number 15, is a transfer from the general fund. If Mr. Rich Karwachka would explain that to us. And wait a second, we will have a motion first.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the transfer of $582,801 from the general fund contingency to the state cost shift long-term care budget.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, Mr. Karwachka.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Supervisor English, Supervisor Crosby. So every year we're given our allocation of what we need to pay from the state for the long-term care of the residents of Cochise County. So last year, we budgeted for the same amount as the previous year. However, there was an increase that's reflected here of $582,801. Now, that wasn't reflected in our current budget that was approved by the board. That doesn't mean that we don't owe that money. That money is owed by the county, and so that's why we're here to transfer that money out of contingency so we can pay our portion.
Does anyone have a comment or question?
Well, the comment is, we're always at the mercy of the legislature of when they decide to sine die and when they decide to make decisions. And sometimes that doesn't really line up with our budgeting process. And so, every year we owe money to the long-term care and we don't know how much it is. So guessing it'd be the same as the year before was a guess, but they wanted more. So now we need to pay.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. If there are no other comments, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And the chair votes aye and the motion carries. The next item is number 16. If we could have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve amendment to intergovernmental agreement IGA CTR 060269 immunization services between the Arizona Department of Health Services, ADHS, and the Cochise Health and Social Services to revise the indirect cost rate effective July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2024.
Second the motion.
Okay. We do have Tomini Allen. And she's an RN with our immunization program coordinator, and we need to have an explanation, I guess.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is an IGA amendment, revises Exhibit Supplement 3, Supplemental Adult Influenza Funding, and Exhibit 5, Vaccination Implementation and Planning Funding from IGA CTR 060269, previously approved on November 29th, 2022 by the Board of Supervisors. This is a cost reimbursement contract that reimburses Cochise County Health and Social Services for implementing additional flu and COVID-19 clinics and educational outreaches. ADHS Procurement Office determined that the indirect cost rate of 10% for the SAFE and VIP from the IGA are not applicable. This amendment removes the indirect cost rate from both Exhibit 3 and Exhibit 5.
That's very complicated.
So it just removes indirect costs. They pulled it off of it. It's the exact same as was approved earlier.
All right. So it has changed and we need to approve
Just
this amendment
re-sign
number
it.
1 to make sure that we all understand what's going on. All right. Are there any other comments?
I would like the
Questions?
county to get out of the vaccine business.
Madam
So-
Chair, I believe you have a speaker request form.
I do. Thank you so much. Item number 16, we do have a speaker request from Samuel N. Sigaloff. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, board members, thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Sam Sigloff, a board-certified family physician, been in practice for 11 years. I first want to read some warnings. The product is for research use only and for experienced personnel. It must only be handled by suitably qualified, experienced scientists in the appropriately equipped and authorized facilities. The burden of safe use of this material rests entirely on the end user. Caution, this product has not been fully validated for medical applications for research use only. The next, this product is for research use only for experienced personnel. It must only be handled by suitably qualified, experienced scientists in the appropriately equipped and authorized facilities. The burden of this safe use of this material rests entirely on the end user. MedChem Express disclaims all liability for any damages resulting in handling or from contact with this product. Caution, this product has been not fully validated for medical applications for research use only. And the third and final, relevant identified uses for research use only, not for human or veterinary use. These are the three components that are in Comirnaty. I'm reading from my affidavit that has been published and filed on September 24th of 21 in the Robert V. Austin, United States District Court of Colorado case. These COVID vaccines, alleged vaccines, are dangerous and should not be given to anyone, as it says here on the material safety data sheet from the manufacturer of these components that are in these shots, not for human use, not for veterinary use. The county should have no business in reimbursing anyone for any of these shots, as they should not be given to humans at all, as stated by the manufacturers.
Does anyone have any questions or comments, anything? Okay, thank you for that. I just have to say, I personally am not a fan or a believer in that experimental medication. I'm good with what you said, but I want to say also that this is a help to our department. It's also for flu vaccine, and we did actually vote on this at one time, and it would still be in play whether we amend the intergovernmental agreement or not. So I think as far as this question goes, that's your information is something for another day. We do advocate personal choice in this county, so information is good. People should all have all the information that they need. So, and I think that's having something available doesn't mean you're going to get it. But that's the comments that I have on that item. Is there any other comments on that item? Okay, we'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, but all those not in favor?
Nay.
Okay, it passes 2 with Mr. Crosby a no vote. Okay, we have an item number 17 now, approve another amendment, number 1. So if we could have Beth Robinson come up. Deputy Health Director, you may speak. Oh, we need a motion. It's a long one.
I move that we approve Amendment 1 to professional service agreements and memorandums of understanding associated with intergovernmental agreement CTR 055990-A1 COVID-19 health disparities, approved by the Board of Supervisors on March 14, 2023, to extend the terms of the PSAs and MOUs through May 30th, 2024.
Second.
Okay, now we have Beth Robinson, Deputy Health Director. Would you please explain?
Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. Today I'm asking for the board approval for the extension on the service agreements and the memorandum of understandings associated with contract CTR 055990-A1, the health disparities, which was approved by the Board of Supervisors at the Board of Supervisors meeting on March 14, 2023. An approval today would just extend the community partner service agreements and MOUs to May 30th, 2024 to reflect the extension dates that were approved by the board on the amended CTR. The community partners include Arizona Prevention Research Center, or the U of A, Arizona Community Health Workers Association, Chiricahua Community Health Center, Pinal Hispanic Council, Southeast Arizona Area Health Education Center, Winchester Heights Health Organization, Arizona Regional Economic Development Foundation, and the MOUs for the Good Neighbor Alliance and Bisbee Coalition for the Homeless.
If I could ask, I'm glad you read that. I was going to ask, so who are the partners at this time? And they are the same, right? We haven't added any or taken any away.
Nope.
Do you have any report on what has been done in those specific areas? Because I understood when this went together, it was to help them with mental health, help them with providing services to their communities, which were overall general health services. And I'm familiar with some of the organizations, but kind of overall.
I know you're familiar with Winchester Heights. They've done a lot of health literacy outreach for women's health and men's health, prostate, and just very broad health literacy
In general, they serve really healthy tacos out there when you go visit.
I don't know about that.
Anyway.
A lot of health literacy and education.
Yes, and that's general. It's important to me because of what the last speaker said, and he's about to come up and speak again. But important to me that this is for different kinds of services and not the immunization or vaccine part. It's the general health part and information. So, okay. It only says COVID-19 because these were disparate communities identified. And I wanted to make that clear. All right. So we have a speaker on this. Thank you so much, Beth, Samuel, and Dr. Samuel Sigloff.
Madam Chair, board members, thank you again for having me. Again, I want to really restate my concern with the vaccine, these alleged vaccines. They're not vaccines. They are technically gene therapies if you look at definitions of words. To offer and to allow the county to reimburse people to offer a dangerous and deadly product as stated by the manufacturer who has no skin in the game. They clean themselves of any wrongdoing. It even says here, not for human use. Because the FDA approves it does not mean it is now safe. I'm going to read some of the toxicology reports from some of these products. Specified target organ toxicity, single exposure classified. Aspiration hazard classified. Acute toxicity classified. Skin corrosion classified. Serious eye damage, irritation classified. Respiratory skin sensitization classified. Germ cell mutagenicity classified. Reproductive toxicity classified. Specific target organ single exposure classified. These people have classified the toxicology reports, which makes it illegal for DOD to offer these to service members, and that's part of what this document talks about. It should be illegal for the county to be able to even offer this to anyone, and they should have no business taking our taxpayer money and giving it to people who, it's not a free choice issue. This is a dangerous product that is being given under the guise of medical help, and especially to the underserved communities who are uneducated, who don't know this, and now you are educated and you do know this, and so you have a mantle of responsibility to protect human life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you a
Yes.
practicing physician? And where
I'm a physician on Fort Huachuca. I'm an Army doctor, a major, and I have been suspended since September 13th because of this, because I was giving medical exemptions to service members. And I broke no laws doing that.
Thank you for appearing today on this item. Is there any more comments on or questions that we have on this agenda item?
I have comments. So I'm looking at this agenda item, which was placed in our material as 7108, scheduled for May 23rd, 2023. And this is based on, it says, fiscal impact and funding sources. The funding source of these agreements is CTR 055990, which is approved by the Board of Supervisors on August 10th, 2021. And part of that said, this award is contingent upon agreement by the recipient to comply with existing and future guidance from the HHS Secretary regarding control of the spread of COVID-19. In addition, recipient is expected to flow down these terms to any subaward to the extent applicable to activities set out in such subaward. That means people that are receiving the money from us. It also says, paragraph 14, comply with existing and or future directives and guidance from the Secretary regarding control of the spread of COVID-19, and regardless of the individual's home jurisdiction or appropriate public health measures, and assist the United States government in implementation and enforcement of federal orders related to quarantine and isolation. And so that is what we are placing on those sub-recipients to this. That concludes my remarks. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and I just want to make a comment. The first sentence says as applicable to what this grant is for, and that's why I made a clarification about what this particular grant and IGA originally was for. I'm going to call for a vote if that's okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All that is not in favor
Nay.
Okay. The chair votes aye and the motion carries. Okay. The next item is number 18, and that is we need a motion, and then Miss Alicia Thompson, our health director, is going to.
Whose turn is it, Madam Chair, or Madam English?
No.
Go ahead.
Okay. We approve contract 23-04-HEA-01, network analysis of Cochise County between Visible Network Labs, Inc. and Cochise Health and Social Services in the amount of $123,000 effective May 23rd, 2023 and June 30th, 2024.
It does say through June 30th, 2024. And I second the motion. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. We're ready to hear the description.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Supervisors. So contract 23-04-HEA-01, network analysis of Cochise County, focusing on COVID-19 vaccine equity, is the result of IGA ADHS 18-177676 Amendment 6, COVID-19 Vaccination Equity Funds. The work plan for this funding included conducting a COVID-19 vaccine equity focused network analysis of Cochise County partners. Health equity is achieved when community stakeholders support every person in achieving their individual full health potential, and when efforts are made to ensure that no person experiences negative health outcomes as a result of identity, environment, or experiences. To address equity in relationship to COVID-19 vaccination, we know the social determinants of health tell us that organizations which support people in housing, food, transportation, jobs, community support, education, and more play a role in determining people's health. Even stakeholders who are not explicitly health-focused will be asked to participate in the network analysis of Cochise County. The results will help our community stakeholders to understand how the work they do supports COVID-19 vaccination equity. An RFP process was followed, and Visible Network Labs was the successful bidder.
So I think that at this point we're looking at removing or has been removed, the public health emergency, and it's kind of fun that these are coming up right now. I understand, though, that it's important to get kind of a view of who has and who has not been receiving services in any part of our health system. Mm-hmm. So I'm a wee bit uncomfortable with the whole focus on COVID-19. I want to assure that there's other things that we're looking at, mm-hmm. As far as health determinants and equity throughout the communities
too. Yes.
And this will do that. Yes. This will also reach out to my family, who's made different choices.
Well, this network analysis is really more about at the organizational level.
Oh, okay.
So this is going to be looking at organizations more than individuals.
CCAP and the Arizona, Aging.
Exactly. Yes.
Agency on Aging.
Right. And the expiration of the public health emergency doesn't impact any of our current contracts that addressed COVID-19. They have to run their course.
Okay. Well, is there any other comments on that or questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. And all opposed?
Nay.
The chair votes aye and the motion carries with one dissenting vote. Oh dear, I turned the page maybe too soon. We're on number 19, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, not too soon then. Okay, we could have a motion.
I move we approve professional services agreement 23-23HEA-01 between Cochise Harm Reduction and Cochise Health and Social Services for syringe exchange services in support of the Justice Reinvestment Fund established through an act of legislation in the amount of $89,831 effective June 1st, 2023 through May 31st, 2024.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. So we also have Ms. Thompson, our health director.
Yes. So this service agreement with Cochise Harm Reduction will utilize the funds that are generated by the Justice Reinvestment dollars. Cochise Harm Reduction will be required to provide the health director with an annual report of their efforts and the impact on our community members. And as a reminder from last year when we first did this service agreement with Cochise Harm Reduction, Cochise Harm Reduction's focus is really on syringe exchange, needle exchange services. And so what they're able to do is help our community users who use IV drugs to safely dispose of their syringes and get new clean syringes back in exchange. And this money is being directly given to them to support their efforts in syringe exchange and harm reduction.
Nobody likes to talk about this.
Right. It is hard.
Yeah. And it's nice that there are companies that and organizations that want to help. So this is like all of our other grant, most of our county funding for the health department is a grant and at no cost to us. So, and I believe this is really important. I don't know another way to solve that problem except for just help people have the support they need to be safe and clean.
And Madam Chair, I want to make sure everyone and the community understands this is actually not a grant. These are dollars that come from the law that was passed that now we get ongoing dollars as a result of the taxes that people are paying when they buy marijuana. Okay. And so this money comes to us in two tranches every year, one June 30th and the other December 31st. And we collect those two tranches, and then at the end of the year, like we've already received this money, it's in the treasurer, we have it. We just transfer it to Cochise Harm Reduction because our plan had been to make efforts to start a syringe exchange program. But when we found out that Cochise Harm Reduction was already doing the work, that's how we decided to use this funding, is help the community partner.
Very good. That was helpful information. So does anyone have any other comments?
Yes, Dr. Thompson, I wonder what measures of effectiveness can you provide us with since this system's been in effect for a year, hasn't it?
Yes, and I would love to have Lou Funk, who is the director of Cochise Harm Reduction, come and do a presentation. I just wasn't sure about what is the proper method, or would it be here in this type of a situation, or would it be work session? Because she's actually ready to come and prepare and present to you. And I think she will be presenting to the Board of Health.
Right. We'll discuss that and have it on an agenda probably.
I move that this item be tabled until we hear from, who was it?
Lou Funk.
Lou Funk.
The executive director.
Then I move this item be tabled until we hear from Dr. Lou Funk, because my vote on this item would have to do with measures of effectiveness. When I talked about this a year ago, I'm sure that I related that the success of a needle exchange program is dependent on a variety of other intervention factors, which I'd like to hear about.
That would not be something that Ms. Funk would be presenting on, is the other measures, would she?
Did I make a motion?
Oh, yes, we should wait for a second. And I hear no second. So I'm going to ask my question again. So would she be presenting on other factors or just her program?
I actually can't speak for her.
You just really don't know.
I can only speak to that she's willing and wants to come and present the effectiveness of the program.
And I'd love to hear about that, but seeing I can't hear that prior to this vote.
We have a motion.
All right. I am going, if there's no other comments, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed?
Nay.
The chair votes aye, and the motion carries 2-1. Okay, we have item number 20 now. We need a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve intergovernmental agreement CTR 064461, Workforce Development Grant between the Arizona Department of Health Services and Cochise Health and Social Services to provide support to local health departments in the amount of $456,893, effective December 1st, 2022 through November 30th, 2027.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and Ms. Alicia Thompson, Dr.
So this agreement is the result of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention awarding ADHS at Arizona Department of Health Services a 5-year non-competitive grant that was titled Strengthening U.S. Public Health Infrastructure, Workforce, and Data Systems. This is supported in part by the American Rescue Plan Act, and the grant is a groundbreaking investment that supports critical public health infrastructure needs of jurisdictions across the United States. Funding from this grant will help ensure that every U.S. community has the people, services, and systems needed to promote and protect health. The grant creates a foundation for CDC's public health infrastructure work and provides maximum flexibility, and that's important, that maximum flexibility, so jurisdictions can address their most pressing needs. And so what the Health and Social Services leadership team did was they got together, they discussed this grant, they identified what would be in the best interest of Health and Social Services, and there was a unanimous agreement between them that this funding should be used to help retain staff through retention payments. And that would be the strategy that would best meet the circumstances for Cochise County. The document outlining the criteria and schedule for retention payments was attached as a separate document, so you all had access to that. And if utilizing these funds for a retention payment is unacceptable to the Board of Supervisors, the funds will be used for strengthening workforce planning, systems, processes, and policies. And I cannot give you more information than that because the leadership team was really adamant. They wanted to use this money for helping to retain employees. And so if you in your discussion and say you don't want to do it that way, you want us to do it this other way, the team will have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how they're going to spend the money.
Okay, so, right. And I apologize. I didn't look at the list of the staff that would be included, but I just want to ask, does that include environmental health? Yes. And also for the public? Because that's been one of our real sticklers where they don't have enough staff.
Right.
And it's just almost not worth working there because it's so difficult.
It includes every single staff member of Cochise Health and Social
So that
Services.
should help in that realm, of your responsibility. I'm excited about that part. All right. And this would be something that you wouldn't be coming to us and saying you needed a extra money in your budget to retain staff.
No, this actually will provide it.
This is going to do that.
Yes.
All right. Gosh, are there any other comments from the?
How many employees are we talking about dividing this?
Currently, there's 84 employees.
Thank you.
Right.
And that number does fluctuate because we have staff members leaving and being brought on constantly. So it really depends. And it will be staff members who have finished their 6 months. They won't be eligible, like if a payment's due a staff member that's in the middle of their probationary period won't be eligible. So the number will be a moving target, but we'll make sure that we follow the outline that was provided to you in the attachment.
I was just asking for an estimate, and 84 is fine for an estimate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other comments? And thank you for your assistance today. So I will call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye and the motion carries. It's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 21 on the agenda is discuss possible action regarding state and federal legislative matters. Our state is adjourned currently for a 2-week period. They could be called back sooner. The budget has passed, and I'm going to refer to Ms. English because Legislative Policy Committee. Okay, because there really isn't anything to report right now. Okay, Mr. Karwachka, County Administrator.
It's been a long meeting. I have no further comments.
It's been a long meeting, but I'm going to talk anyway. And the first week of May is Correctional Officer Week. Today, the valuable role of our 500,000 correctional officers in the United States is to provide service and protection in every state and virtually every county in America as they safeguard 1.8 million incarcerated men, women, and children. Rarely seen in uniform, their service and sacrifice are underrepresented when we think of the first responders in our community. We owe a huge debt of gratitude to the officers who maintain safety and security in correctional facilities, without which our safety would not be possible. Please join us as we seek to recognize the corrections officers, deputies, and staff that serve in relative anonymity across our nation and thank them for the most essential and valuable service they provide in your community. Corrections officers are called upon to fill simultaneously custodial, supervisory, and counseling roles. Their professionalism, dedication, and courage exhibited by these officers throughout the performance of these demanding and often conflicting roles deserve our utmost respect. President Ronald Reagan. Thank you.
I approve of that message. Madam English.
No report.
No report. Okay, and I am going to surprise you again with no report. So the next meeting will be today at 11. Well, today is, what time should we
Madam Chair,
hold it?
if we can adjourn this meeting and start our next meeting at, say, 12:30, so that gives us some time to take a break.
So we will have the next meeting at 12:30 in the executive conference room, a work session regarding facilities, information update, and we will adjourn this meeting.